So Roger's last task was to install this show. Did a beautiful job, and we're just very pleased that you could join us and take advantage of this tremendous opportunity to see the show and learn the rituals of cleansing. So thank you for coming. And I don't know, I thought I heard somebody say from Doherty.
Yeah.
You're from Doherty now, right? My kids went to Doherty. I live right up the street from Doherty.
Okay.
So, good. Great.
What are the names?
Oh, they go back a few years now. They're 30 and 33. So.
Okay. Well, I've been there for 20 years.
Okay, Ario and Hillary Rosenblum. All right, but they both took the world
AP World.
Yeah.
Mike McNamara.
Yeah.
You've been there 20 years? You're too young to be. That's hard to compute.
I know.
I just had haircuts.
You dyed your hair.
Not yet.
Well, welcome. I know Todd has
there's
a
your-
full program, and we'll make sure the snacks get out at an appropriate time.
Hi.
We are just getting started. Paula, welcome everyone. Amy, do we need to say anything else or repeat what you said last time? I think everyone's here who was
Yeah,
here.
everybody was here last time.
So we have funding to help get students to the gallery. And you just need to let us know when, and you work out that with Paula, if you have a date. And for transportation costs, if your school or district doesn't cover everything, or we're happy to help. That's part of our mission. It's in our ADH grant, and we feel that as part of the mission of Holy Cross to connect to the wider community and be a benefit to all, especially in the field of education. So I'd like to just mention my lifelong assistant in research and photography, video, Sana Vajracharya. He's doing a study of Americans. And so he's been here since July. We've now posted 28 videos online that go with this exhibition. So he'll be around today. We're going to videotape in a sort of way James's talk. There's a talk tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. About the painting that's in the back corner of the gallery, and about a story that is sort of is included in an edited form in the text, the companion guide to this exhibition, called the Kinadi Jataka. Now, no one's really decoded the painting that has 72 little incidents. Is it the same version of the story in there? I don't know. But we did our best to figure it out. And so tomorrow night's speaker, Gautam Bhattacharya, is coming from Madison, Wisconsin, and he's been studying this painting. So if you can come from 7 to 8, it'll be upstairs in this building on the 4th floor, where that talk will be. And then Holy Cross has fall break, and when we come back there'll be other events that are in the brochure. If you wanted to come to one thing and could get your students to show up on a Saturday, November 9th, we're doing something that kids will really like to do, which is to make little clay stupas with molds. And when you have a chance to look later, this painting illustrates the entire process. So basically, we'll be living inside the painting, doing what is in this painting that's 250 years old. So we have clay, and you make stupas, and you try to make as many as you can. And they're going to be Newar adults and children from Boston coming as well. So, and we have molds, and we'll occupy this building with Buddhist ritual. So if you can work that out, that would be great. And it's Buddhism as play, and it's fun. And also living according to the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. This is one of the things that's very emphasized as a good activity, making little stupas. And so today's workshop will be divided into two parts. I've asked James Giambrone to come back from, he's here from Nepal, visiting the U.S. His son just graduated from Clark a few months ago. And he co-curated a show last fall on the modern arts and artisans of the Kathmandu Valley. And especially, he's devoted his life, and he'll explain it as he wishes, this interest in the processes, the very ancient processes of making metal art, as well as painting. And I don't know if you're going to talk about woodworking, but it's what's behind what's on the walls here. And so we found students really enjoyed learning about this last fall, college students as well as others. So I asked James to come back to be part of this exhibition, and he helped to procure some of the modern arts that are in the form of the wooden sculpture and the windows and the copper gilded statue in the back. So that's about the first hour and a half. We'll take a break, eat the refreshments, whatever, and then I just want to go through the gallery with you, and I can tell you about a few things that I think are remarkable, but I want you also to have a chance to look around and we can just dialogue about whatever you're interested or you think your students would be interested in. Okay? So that's the plan for today. With that, welcome to James Giambrone to talk to us first.
Okay, well, welcome. I'm glad you all could make it. And as you know, I'm James Giambrone, and I found myself living in Kathmandu 50 years ago, 1970. And I was enamored by what I saw in terms of what they always refer to Kathmandu Valley as a living museum. The art it was hard to not bunk into it, so to speak. It was everywhere, and some of which is right here on the walls here in the gallery. I got fascinated with how they created this art, and I was involved with the bronze castings, cire perdue, French work, and lost wax casting, repousse, and tonka painting. And what I did was I reorganized this just so I was trying to put this slide together so that I was gonna we have a choice. You can answer questions after each section. I have it in 3 sections. One is on the lost wax, one is on tonka painting and powder painting, and the third one is on repousse. And then we'll walk around the gallery, and you'll start understanding now how these objects were made once you see this slideshow. And that was one of the reasons why I got involved in making presentations, is because I realized I ran a gallery, and people walked into the gallery and would walk out and really quickly and had no understanding that the object that they were just looking at took the guy a year to make. And so I started having lectures, and it led to this. So, first of all, I wanted everyone to know exactly where we are. And there is the Kathmandu Valley, that little red dot, yellow dot. Yeah, Nepal nestles in the Himalayas, India to our south, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Bhutan. And by the way, this is like 1/3 of the Earth's population gets water from these mountains. 20 billion, if we can figure that out. What was it?
2 billion.
2 billion. So, and there's a lot of concern about the lack of them drying up and melting. So that's another issue. That's another slideshow. We're going to focus on this image. This is a 12th century image that is in the Patron Museum in Kathmandu Valley, and I was commissioned to do a lost wax demonstration of this image in the museum. And basically the image is made in parts, like a puzzle. So there's a face made first in wax, and 2 separate ears, the crown of the head, the back of the head, the shoulders. It's all made in parts individually and then pieced together as a puzzle. And that will be easy to understand once you look at this process. There are the parts individually made, and they'll be put together as this slide shows, and then there'll be a mold made around the object. That's the original wax mold, and then there's 2 layers of clay, and then this is a more rougher husk with rice husks, a rougher clay. Proportionately, they get mixed depending on the season. Summertime, they have more resin, wintertime, less resin, because it has to be malleable. So in the wintertime, it needs to be softer, so they use less, and the summer more. They melt it down. They're adding the resin here into the pot, melt it down, run it through a cheesecloth, and purify that wax. And basically pour it into a pot, and it just takes the shape of the bottom of the pot, and that's what they're holding on to right now. They'll break off pieces of that, as this artist has done here, and they'll work in front of a brazier. This brazier here is handmade, locally handmade by usually the mothers of the family. This is a little pot. You'll see all these objects in use, and there'll be self-evident there of how they're used once we move along. This is liquid wax that will be placed on top of the brazier, and it'll be melted. These tools will be all placed on there, and for use in putting this together. They pinch off a piece of wax, as you saw in the previous file, and they heat it and then pound it to a flat disc, roughly about 1/8 of an inch thick. And they're pounding it on this very hard granite surface with a rounded stone that they got. Actually, these people use it it's from their grandfather. And so there's their piece. That's the stone. That's what they're pounding on. This has been softened over the brazier, and he's starting to push out the image. Just the face we're looking at right now. There's the nose. You can see it emerging right there, and the chin. So there's no tools here. This is just softened wax, and he's pushing out from behind it. When he gets it to a point where, as he has in this stage, the face is all, you can start seeing details here, the nose and the chin. That's all been done by hand, by keeping it over that brazier. Oops, okay. Here they've instituted a shikalu. It's a buffalo horn tool. He's holding it, yeah, it's very flexible, and he will complete any details to this image with this tool. So again, we're just working on the face. Now we've switched to the crown of the image, and there's the wax that's soft now because it's on the brazier, and these are hot, and you'll see why in a minute when we have to reuse them. And this is a piece of wax that's elevated over the brazier, and it's kept soft continually, and he's pinching off a little piece of wax that you see in his right hand, right there, and he's putting on over 200 hair curls of the Buddha, okay? And they don't have a mold, he just, by feel. This is where the liquid wax is used. This has been broken, and he's repairing this section in here, and the tools are being heated. And there's repairing. With a blade, he's touching the edges of those wax pieces of the puzzle, and he's putting it together. The ear is done. Each piece is done individually with a plate, done by hand, and then worked with the cicalo, the buffalo horn tool, and then placed on the edge with a hot knife that you see on the right-hand side. Once they've joined them, they've got to smooth it out because everything in wax is going to eventually be metal. So they have to make it perfectly even and so that you can't see any of the joints. Here's the image in its finished state. This is the master wax mold. If he was only making one, this was what they would build the mold around. In my case, I had to and often what they do now is they make 10 pieces. So we had to make a mold from this. And they make the mold from the original master wax piece. These are the molds that are going to be made. And the center one is what the face was made from. They made an ear, both sides, the crown of the head, and the back of the head. And how they do that is they press another soft piece of wax over the face of that master mold, the wax mold. As you can see here, sorry for the blurred image, right there, you can see the line. Pulls it off, and now they have the beginnings of a mold. That this piece on the right has to be thickened. They'll add a lot more resin to it, so it's robust and sturdy. And they can make many pieces. And from that, they'll make this centerpiece. And whoops, whoa. That was neat, right? What happened? Okay. Yeah. From that wax piece, once they've put it all together, they have to make a mold for the outside and the inside. In this case, this is a image that's going to be hollow cast, so the inside will be hollow at the finished product, and it won't be a clay core like they do when they do a solid. It's a slip. If any of you are potters, this is a very fine clay that they dip the image in. They brush it on, dip it in. Particularly to get the clay on the inside of the mold, they'll submerge it into the slip, what we call in pottery a slip. And you start, when it dries, you can see all the details. And he'll do it again, another process where you start losing the details. And now he has to make a repair of any cracks that are on that really fine clay and make a much coarser clay mold that's on the outside that's mixed with clay, rice husks, rough clay, and this particular artist told me that they used cow dung mixed in with it as a binder, and also to allow heat to escape from the mold when they heat the mold. You've got to heat the mold before they pour the metal into it because it'll blow up if they don't. The women in this workshop work with their son, and the wife partakes in the work, and she makes the molds. This is a pouring spout that they're covering. This little piece, everything is poured from the bottom up. So it's upside down. They turn the image upside down and they make the pouring spout there. Yeah, it's like cookie dough, and they roll it and attach it. And all they have to do is heat the edge and touch it to another piece of wax, and it adheres to it. They're covering it with a rough clay, not with that real fine clay, just a rough clay. Here it is finished, and this is the pouring spout in here. Now, when it's dried, and the day of casting, they will scratch at the pouring spout, right below this ball of wax, and they will reach the wax, and they'll turn it upside down, apply heat to it, and the wax melts out. And that's where the name lost wax. So I'll say that again. They scratch through the mold, through the clay mold, till they reach the actual wax. They turn it upside down, apply heat to it, and it melts out through that hole. And so then you have a very delicate clay mold that they have to be very careful with, because if they drop it, it's cracked, and they'll lose all their effort. So here it is again. Here's the original wax, the 2 layers of clay, very fine clay, and here's a rough coarse. On the day of casting, the molds go into an oven. There's nothing in that mold except the shape of the image that they've just melted out with the wax, right? So, and here's the crucibles that are being melted. It's 1,000 degrees centigrade, 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. It's an exciting time. They only know through years of experience the viscosity of the mold, of the melted metal at the top. They know it's ready to be poured. The action breaks out because they have to do this all very quick. These 3 in the middle have been poured. These other 3 have not. And they have to fill the mold as quick as possible. So the aim is to have enough copper in that crucible to fill the mold. So they don't have to do it in 2 stages. As you can see, Osha would have a ball here. She uses some chopples, and that's hot metal that she is right now separating the slag from the metal. The slag is the impurities. He's about ready to pour, and you can see it in this next shot. That's slag right there, and she's pushing it away so that when it gets poured into the metal, it won't disturb the casting. She's again. It's very quickly cooled off in water, and they break them open right away. They don't hesitate. And here on the left are raw copper that's going to be for the next crucible. They buy it from India. It used to come from mines in Nepal, throughout Nepal, and now I'm not aware of any copper that's coming from mines in Nepal. You see here an image that was made stronger. The mold was made stronger by putting wire in the mold so that it would be stronger. Okay? And here's a new technique, and it's due to them wanting to make it easier. They've cut the hands off. You see, there's a hand here on the right hand, and there's a left hand here. Traditionally, they cast them attached. But now that they have new techniques such as gas welding and welding, they can cut it off and weld it together and then put gold on the image or work it, and you won't be able to see it. The reason they do that is because they want to clean this edge below the arm, and they can't get to it if the arm is there. This is the actual image that I work with, and I cut it open in this way so that you could really get a clear picture of the process. The darker clay is the really fine clay that expanded, and here is the rougher, coarser clay. That's the pouring spout underneath, right there. They poured it in here, and it came out this side. And how it goes in, it pours in, and then there's a little sprue, what they call a sprue, and there's one on his chin to his chest, and what that's done is it's allowed the mold to fill up very quickly so that it won't coagulate. If it coagulates, it's ruined. So they have to fill it up very quick. Then they're finished with it. Then it goes to another workshop. The man who's created it is finished, and the workshop will be taken over, in this case, by a very famous artist, Bim Sakya. These are just punches. Because in the work they do is they clean the image, but they're really compressing the image. They cold forge it. Here he is cold forging it. And what that means is that really the molecular structure of the metal is compressed. And it becomes, copper is very soft. So they have to clean it all off first, and then they do all the fine details. And you can see that he's cut off all the pouring spouts. They recycle everything. Here's an image on the right, before and after on the left. They're very refined at this round. Now, today, in 2019, these men are making more money than the man who's creating the image. Because everyone can't do what this artist just did by making from that image and created a beautiful chort and then the hair. This is all done by the carver. So this is what he got, and this is what I worked with to get these designs. These are not punches, by the way. This is a carved line. So everything here is as I said, it's not what I made for my mother in 8th grade, I think, a leather wallet, and it was stamped, and I got the design. Here it's chased, each line. That's the hip. Yeah, so you can see they're really fine. They're masters at this work. Before and after. And they do large scale. This is 10 feet, and it's about 8 pieces together. Yeah, this would be done they have a lot of Tibetan clients, and this is clearly done for a Tibetan monastery. This is Padmasambhava. This is another technique that they do. This is copper gilded, hollow, and then they painted it. They painted over the gold. I could never, at the beginning, I didn't understand that, and it's not about they want to show off the gold. The gold is gilt. It's 24 karat gold. They've gilded the image, and they painted over it. And I thought, oh, all that precious metal you've covered. But to them, the dana, or the devotion, is to the offering of the gold. And this is the way Padmasambhava should be dressed, in the colors of his robes. He was an 8th century yogi from India who supposedly went through the Kathmandu Valley and brought Buddhism to Tibet, Vajrayana Buddhism. Here's a 23-inch solid copper Mathura, Northern Indian school, copied by a Jagat Sakya in the 60s. He originally made that piece. This is another piece from Kashmir. This is modern. These are all modern pieces I'm showing you. That was the original pieces was from Kashmir. And this is a modern one. This was in the show last year that we had here in Worcester. This is perhaps the most improved, or the best engraver in Kathmandu is this Rustama Matia. Now, before we're going to move on to the halva. So if you have any questions, you can ask now, and then you can also ask when we walk around and explain anything to you. If anybody has any questions. If not?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh.
How old is this technique?
This
How did
technique.
it evolve?
Well, I haven't caught up with the bronze casting. I know that in repousse, it was 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia in Iraq, and you'll see it on the next couple of slides. And they must have been casting then. They cast before they did repousse.
So over 4,000 years old.
So we're looking at 4,100 years old.
And is it passed from within the family from generation to generation? And is is there an artisan guild or anything?
There's an artisan guild by cast. The Sakyas
cast?
do the casting, yeah. But they, father to son, father to son, father to son. By 13, they're sitting with their fathers, figuring, learning it.
So father to son, but there were a couple of women in there.
Right, family members. I told you, the wives or mothers work in the workshop.
They are not, they do not.
They don't make
artisans.
sculptures. Well, I'm dating myself. When I got involved with, they weren't, but now, Sanu, don't you think they are? Are they doing? There's some now. It's opened up. Their whole culture has opened up to women being involved more in the ritual of everything. You know, ritual, drumming, and also painting. They're starting to paint. So it's opening up. Like, hopefully the whole world is. Yeah? Did you have a question? Yeah.
I kind of missed the beginning of the presentation, but I was wondering if the industrial revolution has an impact on how they could change the way that they make Buddhist art with coal or stone. Because I know that when I go to different supermarkets that there are some with glass. I mean not glass, but what they use for pig banks and cement, and if that is different. Because from what I saw with the time that I'm here, that they use molds and different layers. So I'm just wondering what rituals have influence from the Industrial Revolution. I don't know if the stone.
Well, the techniques, you mean?
Yeah.
That have changed.
Yeah.
Since the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, and if I know that a lot of these arts are in different museums, but I don't know how some of these arts get to supermarkets or different touristy places. I don't know if this art is there's so many ways or so many different things that you can do with art. And so the purpose of this, that was 3 different questions into one, but I guess so. Yeah, where is this used for?
Yeah, no,
How does it change? You can answer however you want. I just have
okay.
multiple thoughts with that.
It's written in the catalog. The most recent change has been 3D printing and making molds. They can take a picture and go into a workshop and make 1,000 pieces exactly alike with a 3D printer. And they have techniques now where they use latex molds and they inject the wax into these molds, and they make the wax very thin. I mean, it's paper thin almost, okay? And they pour it with new machines that are casting machines that are centrifugal force, and they're injected into the mold. What results is they don't have to fin it, carve it anymore, right? Very little they do. They'll just touch it up if there's a little mark on the face, and so they can mass produce and make it an affordable. You know, it's mass produced, but I just bought 10 of them back for my friends because they're affordable and they're beautiful images, and they're copper and gilded with 24 karat gold. So does it have a market? Yeah, I think it has a market. Is it going to destroy these? No. I think the Newars are going to continue doing this. There'll be less people doing it, but I think that it will not destroy this.
But
I mean, this is a continuum of over 1,000 years. That's
And as
unchanged.
for the Industrial Revolution, I think you could probably say no, there
No.
wasn't a massive change there. Just a few things like where you use the billows and a few
Yeah, I mean, you know,
things, not much.
not in terms of the actual tools they use. Did that?
Yeah, and just
Well, let's talk afterwards, so that we can move on and do, unless you have, that wasn't enough?
Oh, maybe you're gonna touch upon where this art is passed or how it's.
How's it passed on?
Yeah, you said family rituals, but you see a lot of like different like Buddhist art in like different countries, and
Uh-huh.
Where it's distributed.
Well, they're actually exporting. These Newars are exporting. I think Raj Kumar, the one we're going to show in repousse, is exported to like 25 countries in the world because of, particularly in a lot in Asia, there's been a re-emergence of Buddhism studies since the invasion of Tibet in 1959, and then the Tibetans, the diaspora of Tibetan culture just went and took refuge in India, America, all the continents actually, and they rebuilt their monasteries, and they call on the Newars of the Kathmandu Valley, who originally created the arts for them in Tibet, to redo their monasteries in America, South America, Japan, and I'll show you some of those examples.
Thank you.
Yeah. Narrative. So this is a Palva paintings is practiced at Kathmandu Valley. Paintings were done as folklore. This is a painting by a very famous painter, Siddhi Sakya, of Cassandra. Cassandra is the figure on the right, and so there were folklore paintings. This is a story about Ikam Bahal, the largest monastery in Kathmandu, a very old monastery, and he was a gambler. And they show the gambling part up here because he gambled away all his wealth, and there's a little gold top on top of this. And so he received a boon from Katrika Vaidya because he gambled all his money, and his sister took him in, and then he gambled all the money away again. And so folklore, they'll paint a painting with the story. So this painting was about the story of Cassandra at Ikam Bahal. Here they would, a painting of, this is a narrative painting of the historical Buddha preaching in Sarnath. This is over 200 monks in this painting. And so the paintings were narrative, they were religious in all different aspects. Here's one that's in Swayambhu. It's a narrative scene, and done in 1918. And this is at the Museum Gabet. This is the Swayambhu Purana. That's a version of the painting that's on the wall here, the large painting we'll see in a minute. They're all Buddhist or Hindu. In my case here, I'm mostly working with Buddhists, so they're all religious paintings. There's nothing that's done for art's sake, historically. Now they are. That's a change. If you want to incorporate, now they're incorporating contemporary, modern styles, some to the angst of the traditional Newars who feel that they shouldn't be messing with the gods and goddesses of the Kathmandu Valley. Now, artists are artists. They love to create. So in Tonga painting, here's an artist who is going to choose the length and size of the cloth. It's just 100% cotton cloth, and cuts it to the size of the painting, basically. Now he's sewing in an edge right here, a sleeve. He's sewed in that sleeve, he slipped in a rod, and he's going to stretch the canvas on a board, a frame. And here he's stretching the canvas. This is just cotton. It's not sized, it has no gesso on it. It's just being stretched here, in this pattern here. We will apply animal skin blue, the dark piece that he has in hand, zinc oxide, and paint it on. Okay? And what he's making the ground for the color. You know, you have to have a foundation for the paint. So he's painted, it's dried, he's placed it on a board, and he's burnishing it. now with this round stone in one direction only, and then he works the other direction. So he smooths it out and making a ground for the paint, for the color. And then at this point, he will use one of 3 different techniques. Here, he'll do geometric drawings that he's either received from his teacher or father in some cases, because remember it's father to son. Yeah? And the other technique that they did was they would know the dimensions, the proportions that are written here, and then freehand draw an image with those proportions. So the proportion being, they're usually fingers, the width of fingers, and 5 fingers is between the chin. It should be between the chin and the forehead. And there's a whole code of proportions that they have to follow. They trace. He's put a drawing behind the painting canvas and put it up to a window, create his own light box. And that bar on the left is just, this bar right here is just pushing the drawing against the canvas. The third technique he would do is, this drawing has a bunch of pinholes on all the major lines. So he's pricked it all along the lines. Put some color in a cloth, and he's pouncing it. It's an ancient old technique to create patterns. And there's the pattern of the stupa. So now he has a form to trace, paint, do whatever he's going to do with the image. And then they freehand draw. This is all done by hand. I looked at it very closely. This is not a compass. This he didn't do with a compass. They drew it by hand. And what's unique is you look at a painting and you see, well, when you look closer and closer, you realize, oh no, that's a hand-drawn line. So it's quite remarkable when you see it. The colors that they'll use, this is orpiment, and they have to, mineral pigment, they grind it. These take a long time. Apprentices would be doing this. And until they master one technique, they're allowed to move on to the next. So they might have like 3 or 4 people working in the painting, in a workshop, in an atelier, as we call them in the art world. Much as Michelangelo. Michelangelo did not paint everything that he's credited with. He worked in a workshop and he supervised. And I'm sure he did a lot of the fine detail drawings of the face, the eyes, the hand, certain things, but it was just not possible for him to do all what he's accredited with. That red is 3 months of grinding. They grind it depending on the color they want. The more they grind, the lighter the color gets. The yellow is the orpiment. The green is mixed with indigo and a little bit of black to get a different shade. Yeah. And today they use these the pedestal, but they're from pharmacy shops.
Pestle and mortar?
Yep. Yeah, pestle and mortar, but they're from the pharmacy shops that they get them from. So they work from background to foreground. The canvas is stretched, it's taut. Here, sometimes they'll do 2 paintings at one time. And all the little strokes that you see on the edge, are the practice strokes of before he puts the paint onto the canvas. He'll dip it, make a stroke on the side, and see, oh, there's enough paint, and then paint the image. So he's working from background to foreground. This is mostly, there's a little bit of shading that was done in here, but mostly this is all background except for that. That's been shaded, but this one on the right is all background. Okay? And in the case of, in my atelier, if you were my students, I would mark them. I'd mark each deity and say what color it's going to be, and then I could walk off and whatever. I mean, and you would know what colors to paint. And now they know that now because of cameras that are able to photograph through the paint, and they can see numbers. They can see numbers or red colors, codes for colors. Right now he's doing the crown and all the gems on the crown, but here this has been shaded already. You can see it's quite three-dimensional here, all around that part. This is a painting I was working with to use as a demonstration. In this case, this is quite a large brush, but I've worked with artists that use one hair brush. They have to do the eyes, or a face, or a very small figure. So they've worked from background to foreground. Now he's working on the complex details of the robes, or actually in this case it's a dhoti. And all this area has been already done, and this has been shaded, but he's working right down here on a design that you can see here clearly. They're very amazingly quick at able to repeat those patterns. Much to my surprise, they just have it. They've been doing it for so long that they're able to rapidly perform their work. Right now they're shading the lips, the eyes, and traditionally they would finish the eyes last through a ritual, and that brings in the spirit of the painting into the painting. Remember, these are religious paintings, they're icons. They're not. It's not an art piece per se. And then here, they're going to mix an amalgam of gold and mercury. Sorry, not mercury, in casting. Gold and honey. And there's a particular man in a particular shop in Kathmandu who won't say how all these are made, because it's his main source of income. And so everybody goes to this one man in Indrachot, a particular part of Kathmandu, to buy gold pellets from him. Here he's painting the gold on with a binder. The gold is mixed with glue, animal skin glue again. He's doing all the crown. And then he has to burnish it. Now if you look on the right-hand side, just here you can see it a little brighter. He's burnished that. This whole thing is covered with 24 karat gold, and these objects, the gems that he's painting, he's painted, and now he's burnishing it with an agate pen. That's the painting finish of the demonstration. And so here's the drawing, and it works into that corner. That's finished. That one part right there. So those are all the steps. 15th century. This is a painting that's done by Newar for a Tibetan client. We call it the Berry School, and just wanted to show you a few examples of this different tradition of Thangkas. This is Maya Devi, the birth of the Buddha in Lumbini, done by Newar. The Newars were the painters and artisans of choice by Tibet and many areas throughout Asia. This is Vaida, a very powerful deity. It's the concept of, if you were going to have a guard dog, you'd want a mean, fierce guard dog. So Vaida has many forms, but he's a protector of religion, of the sect, what you've want protected. Yeah. Before we move on, do you have any questions on the painting? Yeah. Okay.
Question.
You.
You said it was a religious painting as opposed to one being made to be sold commercially, is that right?
Correct.
So are they commissioned by a monastery or by whom?
We're in ancient times past. It was a monastery, a bahal, what they call it in Newar, bahal, a king, a wealthy merchant who wanted to get what we call dana or merit. So if we wanted merit, we would paint a painting and donate it to the temple and put our name in it. And often you appear in the register. They paint you into the register as a person kneeling down. And you'll see them here. They're all over the walls here. When we walk around, I'll point that out.
All right. Thank you.
This is, you asked, this is a repousse bull that was found in Tel Abyad, south of Iraq, between the Euphrates and the Tigris, Mesopotamia, 2600 BC, Chalcolithic period, 2 feet by 2 feet. It was found by Leonard Woolley, and they knew what it was, that it was repousse, because of the pitch that they found behind this head. Well, it's a lion head that was appeared next to it. And you'll understand more about the pitch when we go further along with the repousse section. This is a famous temple in the Kathmandu Valley, Swayambhu. That's about, the metal part is about 60 feet tall. It's all done in repousse. It will be another picture that you can see. They started off with working drawings. If any one of us were commissioning a piece and we were concerned about the proportions of the piece, we would ask for a drawing to be made first. So this is the drawing of working drawing of Kubera Singh Sahib, 1954. We found in my friend's workshop, and we found it in the mountains. This is the actual image that was made the drawing was made for this image, and it's around today. It's about 6 feet tall. The drawing, this is Raj Kumar Saket, 5th generation repousse artist. Repousse means to be pushed again. It's a French word. You push it from behind, the front, behind, the front. And we have, one of the most exquisite examples of it here in the exhibition. You'll see it when we're finished with the crown. So he's drawing the schematic drawing on Nepali paper, applies it onto copper sheet, 18 gauge copper, uses assorted hammers, different shaped hammers. You can see the ends of all those are all very different. They're made locally by a blacksmith who's also a shaman. During this process I'd be working, and then suddenly somebody will bring a baby in, and the shaman has to stop working, and he'll bless the baby and do a small ritual. So the alchemy of metal and shamanism is linked. Historically, it's been linked. So here are what they call, Newar is called dwaku. It's a bird's beak, and it slides over the anvil, and you'll see with different ends. This is the end that they work on, different sizes, shapes. He make them in his workshop. So this man is pounding them out. This is Raj Kumar and his dad. Dad on the right, and here's one of those bird's beaks. It slides over this iron anvil, and you'll be able to see it clearer later. He's working from behind it, behind the image, and he's working in the front of the image. To be pushed again, you work from the front, the back, the front, the back, and then you put it in a pitch, and you'll see that in a minute, and then you work from the front. Here he is, just etching the face. He's drawn it on the side he's working on, and he's put this duaku right there, and it's very small, and he's following the line, and he's creating this outline that you can see. And when he turns it over, he knows where to push. So he's pushing from behind with this rounded hammer at the end there, and he's going to push it out and push it out and push it out. I actually had to do this for Nova, that's why you're seeing two pieces in the image, but this is the previous image. And you can see where he outlined it, right there. And that's what he's working on by pushing it out. This is a good image to show the kalu. This is the anvil, what they call the kalu. This is the duaku, the note, what they call the bird's beak, that they slide on the end. And this is a kasalan. And this is a tranche of a tree that's punched out a hole, and they lift this end up, and the lower end of the anvil drops. This pushes up, it drops, they push it down, and it lifts it up. It's a very clever tripod. Perhaps our first tripod in the world was created in this manner. Now what's happening here, the image is going to get work hardened. The molecular structure of the metal breaks down, and it gets work hardened. And so they'll punch through the metal, and they have to heat it and then rework it, because once it's heated and cooled off, suppleness of the metal returns. Here he's been pushing it out so far that he's lost the image, the drawing. So he has to again draw it, and now he's pushing it out again from the back. And working on a small anvil and a larger anvil. This is the duaku, and he's got this big piece round here, and he's working on the hair curls. When that's finished and all the modeling is done, Mom, again, here's a woman who steps forward. This is his mother, and she's going to make the pitch. And the pitch is three parts resin and one part brick dust and oil, mustard seed oil. And mixes it together until it starts forming a little ball, pours it into a pot, and melts it. Turns into taffy. It's pitch. They pour it into the back of the image and adhere it to the board, to a board. Yeah? And now they can work. And now you can clearly see this piece has been annealed. It's discolored from the fire. Punches, they're not carving out any metal. They're just pushing one part down next to the work and raising up the other. And so he does all the fine details in this manner. And the pitch is clear. They reuse it. The pitch, they'll reuse it many times. At the point of the face being done, they'll cut out the head, and there's the head. That's just the front. Okay, they have to do the back, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the feet, if it's a standing image. So it's a very complex process, but they're masters and they're still doing it. This is an image, these are images that are done in that same technique that are 10 feet tall, and they're used in a festival called Summit, depending on the Kathmandu or Patron, they're once every 12 years or every 4 years. This is one of them that's being, before it's brought out, and the repousse head, this is copper, and this is all wood. They'll dress it up, and after a while you'll see it in a minute. And this is the parts that they're going to put on, and it's a time where at their monastery that they're associated with, the Bahal. They will gather, and the books on the right-hand side, right here, are to record everything. They found the head, they found the hands, everything's in good shape, it hasn't been stolen, and they record it. And this is time for gathering a family. And here's a little kid, the kids always play, and it's very family friendly, kids friendly. It's a kids friendly country. And, you know, they allow them to pick things up and, you know, play. This is the image at the festival, the Summit Festival. And I'm just going to show you quickly here some of, that's the detail of the crown. All copper gilded repousse. That's the plate that's on the chest. And the person's eyes would be peering out right through here. So you can see where the person's standing, and they help them hold it up, and they walk the town. That Swayandu I showed you earlier, that's 60 feet tall, all in repousse, gilded repousse. Here's an image that came out, and I was interested in because that's what it looks like behind. When it went by, I realized, oh gosh, you know, here's an unfinished repousse piece, although it's really for the wall. You know, they put it against the wall. Stone sculptures. This is the Kumari. Everything that she has on is all, you know, except for the cloth, is done in metal, in repousse. In the same technique, beaten out of sheets. This is a 12-foot image that comes out once a year. It just was over Indrajatra, and he's getting absolutions from the deity Vaida. They pour out a local brew called Chang Dog in Newar. Before you enter a temple, often these would be decorated in all copper repousse. This is all in that same technique I just showed you. The chariot of Rato Machendra that bring rain to the Kathmandu Valley is the deity's inside. There he is, Rato Machendra. And this is like, you know, the wheel that here is about 6 feet tall, right there. And every day, right? Pots, pans, ritual objects, decorative things, they still have these workshops. This is a large scale that was made for Eastern Tibet. You asked about the revolution or the cultural revolution. They've exporting quite a lot. This is 24 feet. It went to Eastern Tibet. This is an image that was used as a model for a 115-foot Guru Rinpoche in Eastern Tibet. Sorry, Eastern Bhutan. And this image, by the way, this technique is exactly how the Statue of Liberty was made. The Statue of Liberty was made in repousse. And it's just really a thin copper sheet that's adhered to a solid frame. Here, they made from that mold, they made a fiberglass, made an inner structure where they could walk up the piece right there. This is the model, and there it is on site. This is 40 feet tall. This is 40 feet, and the object, here's where it sits in the valley. The scale is huge. Yeah, the image is 115 feet. They went there and worked on it in situ. This is the face, 15 feet tall, and behind the clay is chicken wire. Basically, they sling the mud on and then start sculpturing it, and then they make pieces in repousse and just spot weld it here and here, and they see once it's done correctly, they'll weld it entirely. That's 15 feet and 4 pounds of gold right there. This is how they get the hand up. This is about a ton. a very primitive system, but it worked. And that's the image. It's finished now. When I was there, it was just being completed. Okay.
Well, what year was that?
Yeah, I went there to document this.
Oh, what year?
What, 2010.
I think I have a picture of that.
What's
I
that?
think I have a picture of that.
You have a picture of it finished? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a big pilgrimage site. Now, I mean, since you've been there, you know what it looks like now. It's like, I mean, there's 108 stupas surrounding it. There's monastery inside of it now. That's an active monastery inside the concrete, the white part. Okay, so we if you don't have any questions, we can walk around and Todd will give us a little tour.
Or do you?
Or-
Are there requisite
Yeah.
questions?
I think I just had a question about how
Sure.
it's assembled, the smaller pieces.
Of repousse?
Of repousse, yeah.
The smaller pieces, well, I mean, what are we talking? They'll make them in one piece.
Well, when you were showing us the face, you know, and how it was, you just simply said that they would then have to make the back of the head, the other
A
pieces.
rivet.
Rivets.
Yes, rivets and dovetails, and they would hold them together. They weren't concerned, you know, it was what happened, particularly in images like that, they would cover them with cloth. Yeah? Robes, brocades, and you know, you really, when you go into monasteries sometimes, particularly Tibetan monasteries, you'll see the hands, the hands and the face, and everything else is covered with brocade or something, you know, so the focus is although proportionally, of course it has to be proportionally correct, but they'll cover it, except for this, they painted it. They painted everything except for the face and the crown. So that's 155 feet tall. Yeah? Help prevent that by creating museum quality art, and so that I could create a market for people who wanted a fine piece of art and didn't necessarily care whether it was old or not. I think I accomplished that. The gold image that you'll see at the end of the event was one I just commissioned for this exhibition, and it's remarkable. It's wood. But it's a ongoing conversation about, you know, art winding up in museums. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see this if it wasn't in museums, right? I mean, we couldn't have this exhibition if all this art wasn't in these various museums.
I have a more of a general question about these ritual objects that are made, you know, these artistic objects. So I went to Nepal, and I went to, while I was in Kathmandu, I went to a place where they produce tanka. And so they described the process in which, you know, there's different layers or levels of mastery for the artisans. And so they had to undergo a process. You know, it took them, you know, so long. They had to master certain techniques or skills before they could ascend, you know, to the next level. And while they also practiced this art, they had to, you know, kind of, you know, abstain from, you know, drink. They, you know, had to do they had all these restrictions on how they could live their life as they were, you know,
Learning the process.
or as they were making the art, you know, as they were making the painting, the tanka. And so, would you say, you know, is that consistent? Are there, you know, in terms of across these different kinds of arts, you know, the metalworking, the painting? Can you say anything about how
In the art, I could say that the artists that I work with, the ones who have passed away now, because it was so long ago, probably followed that a certain amount of that ritual. And Todd, you might be able to address that more, or Sada, about the ritual part of that they have to follow while creating the art, right? That's what we're.
Yeah.
I didn't work with many artists who did, to be honest, except for the oldest ones way back in the early 70s who have passed away. I think that they adhered to it, although it was a private, sacred place that I was never allowed to go into. And you might have come across Tibetans. Maybe you were following. Was it a Tibetan workshop?
I'm guessing because it was Thangka, maybe,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
Oh, why don't we take a break and have refreshments, and then we'll walk the gallery? Okay.